All right, let's talk about something that's happening inside millions of us, probably right now. It's a silent process, one that leads to the #1 killer out there. We're going to break down exactly how it works, why it's so incredibly dangerous, and most importantly, what you can actually do about it. So let's dive right in.
So, just how big of a deal is this? Well, let's get right to the point. The disease we're talking about, coronary artery disease, isn't some minor health issue. It is the single biggest killer in the United States. Get this, it's responsible for more deaths than all forms of cancer combined. That's a staggering fact, and it's exactly why understanding what causes it is so important. So who's the villain in this story? It's a process called atherosclerosis. Now that sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's when your arteries, which are basically the vital highways for your blood, start to get hard and narrow. And why? Because of a sticky, gunky substance called plaque. Just imagine sludge building up inside a pipe, slowly and silently choking off the flow. That's atherosclerosis.
To really get a handle on the danger here, we've got to go inside the body. We need to see exactly how this whole thing unfolds. How does a perfectly healthy, flexible artery turn into something rigid, narrow, and frankly, life-threatening?
It all starts on those highways we were talking about, your arteries. See, they're designed to be smooth and flexible, but a really slow, sneaky process can start up, creating the ultimate internal traffic jam, one with potentially deadly consequences.
What's so fascinating is that this happens in very distinct stages. It all kicks off with tiny, almost microscopic damage to the inner lining of the artery. Think of it like a little crack in the wall. That crack allows the bad cholesterol, or LDL, to sneak in and start piling up. Your body's immune system, of course, rushes in to clean it up, but the cleanup crew gets so full of this fatty cholesterol that they turn into these weird things called foam cells. These form a fatty streak, which over time grows and hardens into plaque. And here's the real danger. If that plaque breaks open or ruptures, it can trigger a blood clot that stops the flow of blood completely. Now, of course, this whole process doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's sped up by a whole list of well-known accomplices. Things like smoking, for instance, directly damage that artery lining, creating more of those little cracks. High blood pressure puts constant stress on the artery walls, making them weaker. And then you throw in factors like obesity, diabetes, and even chronic stress. Well, you're basically creating the perfect storm for atherosclerosis to just take over. And yeah, while some things like your age and your genes are out of your hands, you can see that a lot of these major risk factors are things we can influence.
You know, for a long time, this buildup can be completely silent. You wouldn't even know it's happening. But as those arteries get narrower and narrower, your body starts to send out distress signals. It's absolutely crucial to know how to recognize these signals for what they are and urge an SOS.
The danger becomes most serious when this whole process starts happening in the coronary arteries. These are the specific blood vessels that feed your heart muscle itself. This is what we call coronary artery disease, or CAD. When the heart's own fuel line gets clogged up, you can imagine the consequences can be pretty severe.
So, what's the most common warning sign of CAD? It's a type of chest pain called angina. People often describe it as a pressure, or a squeezing, or a tightness in the chest. And this isn't just some random pain. It's literally the sound of your heart muscle crying out for the oxygen-rich blood it's not getting enough of.
And this right here shows the classic pattern of angina. It almost always pops up during physical activity or even intense emotional stress. Basically, anytime your heart has to work harder and needs more oxygen. And then, what happens? The pain usually goes away when you rest or maybe take medication like nitroglycerin, because the heart's workload goes back down. This on-again, off-again pattern is a huge telltale sign.
But listen, it's not always about chest pain. Your body might be sending other signals that its oxygen supply is struggling. You might feel unusually out of breath because your heart just can't pump as efficiently. Or maybe you get dizzy because your brain isn't getting all the oxygen it needs. And sometimes the pain isn't even in the chest. It can show up in your arm, your jaw, or your back as the body's pain signals kind of get their wires crossed. It's so important to be aware of all these potential warnings.
So if we boil it all down, what's the core issue? All of these symptoms, they all point back to one fundamental problem. The plaque is choking off blood flow, and that leads to a state called ischemia. It's a medical term, but it basically means one thing. Your cells are starving. And when your heart cells are starved of oxygen, they send out those pain signals, and eventually they can start to die. That's a heart attack.
Okay, we understand the problem, we understand the danger. So let's get to the most important part, the playbook for fighting back. Because this is not a hopeless situation. There are incredibly powerful ways to take control. And the really good news here is that when it comes to fighting this disease, you've got a powerful two-pronged attack. Think of it like your offense and your defense, both working together to protect your arteries and your life.
Your first, and honestly your most powerful line of defense, is all about your daily choices. Quitting smoking is probably the single most important thing you could ever do for your arteries. Adopting a diet that's low in saturated fats and salt helps bring down your cholesterol and blood pressure naturally. And getting regular exercise strengthens your heart and improves your circulation, making your whole system tougher. These aren't just little suggestions. They are powerful medicine that you can prescribe for yourself, starting today.
Now, your second line of defense brings in the amazing tools of modern medicine. As you can see, we have medications that directly target those risk factors, like statins to hammer down your cholesterol, or antihypertensives to get your blood pressure under control. And for cases that are more advanced, there are procedures to actually restore the blood flow. A stent, which is like a tiny metal scaffold, can be placed inside an artery to prop it open. And for the most serious blockages, bypass surgery can create a whole new route for the blood to flow. It's like building a detour around a massive traffic jam on the highway.
So in the end, when you really look at the big picture, the health of your arteries tells the story of your life. The choices you make every day, the actions you take. The biggest takeaway today is that you are the main author of that story. So, the question is, what will your story say? Will it be a story of prevention, of taking control? Or will it be a story of silent, unchecked damage? The power to decide, that's in your hands.